Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am so happy that you're here. Happy Friday, you guys. I hope you have had a great week. And if you didn't, guess what? The week is over. It is the weekend. We made it. It is Easter weekend. So happy Easter weekend to all of those who celebrate. And if you don't, I hope you just have a great weekend. I hope you do. It is Friday. I've had a pretty good week so far. It is the very beginning of the week when I'm filming this. It's only Tuesday, and it is a cloudy, gloomy Tuesday. And what sounds better on a cloudy, gloomy Tuesday than doing a What Would Sav Do? I think nothing. That's what I think. Nothing sounds better. And that's what we're doing today. As you can tell by the title of this episode, we are doing a What Would Sav Do? Happy April. No, it's not April. I was going to say happy April. It's not April yet. I was going to say this is the first What Would Sav Do of April. It is not, because it's March. So it's the last What Would Sav Do of March. Anyways, if you don't know what Would Sav Do is, basically it's exactly what it sounds like. I asked you guys on the My Thoughts Exactly Instagram page, which if you don't follow it, what are you doing? It's just My Thoughts Exactly podcast on Instagram. It's where I keep you guys up to date on everything going on with the podcast. So make sure you're following. It's basically like my private story. Pretty much. That's how I like to think of it. So make sure you're following it. And I asked you guys on there to send in your What Would Sav Do's, and boy, did you. We have a lot to go through today. We do. So we're just going to start right into it because it's just, yeah, we have a lot to catch up on. We have a lot to catch up on. But, yeah, I don't think I finished what I was saying about what a What Would Sav Do is. It's basically, you guys let me know what's going on in your life, what advice you need, what's bothering you, what you're going through, and me, Sav, hey, hi, hello, tells you what I would do in that situation. So without further ado, we're going to jump right on into it. First one, would you remain friends with someone who left you at a nightclub while drunk? What would Sav do? Okay, this one does hit a little bit closer to home as of lately for a couple reasons. If you guys have been keeping up with the news, you may or may not have seen Riley Strain. Riley Strain was a 22-year-old, I believe, from Nashville. He was a Mizzou student who came here in Nashville to visit. He wasn't from Nashville, but he came here to visit for spring break. He ended up at Luke Bryan's after being with his friends all day, probably drinking, ended up at Luke Bryan's. He got kicked out of the bar for being too drunk. He left, and he has been seen on security camera footage stumbling all over Nashville. And unfortunately, he landed and was found passed away in the Cumberland River as of last Friday, a week ago by the time you guys are seeing this. So very, very sad and a very unfortunate, just tragic thing that didn't need to happen. And I think that that's why everyone is so, really affected by this case in particular, because, this was something that did not need to happen. It was so preventable. And had Riley had a friend with him, and this is not to blame the friends at all, but had Riley had a friend with him or someone to escort him back to the hotel that they were staying at, this probably would not have happened. So because of that, and with this question, it's been weighing heavy on my mind a lot lately about just safety, being safe when you're out, being aware of what's going on when you're out. And when you go out with your friends, you leave together. That is it. When you go out with your friends, you leave together. Especially as women, you leave together. You do not leave a friend behind, especially when you're drunk. That is like an absolute no-go. And I'm not going to lie, there have been many scenarios in my life where I have been the person who has stayed back, and it has been willingly. Like, it's not even like my friends left me. It was like I was standing 10 toes down, and I was like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm having a great time. Like, I'm staying here. And I did. And I would stay at the bars by myself. And it was such a dangerous situation that I was putting myself in. And I look back now, there were so many things that could have and honestly should have gone wrong. The situations that I was putting myself in, the people that I was talking to, like, it was a recipe for disaster. And I am so grateful that I'm like sitting here today. Honestly, I have so many scary stories that I could tell you. I'm not even going to go into it, but I think that, like I said, when you go out with a group, I don't care if it's one person, two people, three people, 4, 5, 6, it doesn't matter. When you go out with a group, you leave together. That's it. You do not leave one person left behind. And I actually had this happen to me like a little over a month ago. I went to a friend's birthday dinner and we went out afterwards because she wanted to go out. We went out. I went to the bathroom. I came back. Everyone had left. And I had been drinking that night. Like, I was not the most clear-headed. And luckily I was able to just, call an Uber and go home. But, and this is no shade to that friend at all, but, it definitely was a little unsettling that they were so able to like leave so quickly. And she was very apologetic and like very, I'm so sorry. And like, I'm sorry we left, we're just tired or whatever. And that's totally fine. I would have left too. I would have been in that group leaving too. I was just in the bathroom at the time. And I left right after that and got home and everything like that. But I will say, when you are out with a group of people, leave with your people. You will never regret leaving and going home safe and getting a good night's rest and waking up the next day. And you never think something is going to go wrong until it might. And that's just the unfortunate, scary reality of the world that we live in. Things go wrong and you don't think it's going to be you until it is. And I just think it's really important to watch out for your friends and to look out for each other. It's a scary world and you want to be able to be aware of your surroundings and be aware of your friends and the people that you're with and all of the things. So I would just, if I were you, I probably wouldn't cut this friend off, but I would, especially if this was like the first time. If this is something that continuously happens, then like, no, you do not need this friend in your life. They do not care about your well-being. But I would probably have a conversation with them and be like, listen, I get that like whatever the context was, like whether everyone was tired or they wanted to go to the next bar or whatever, I get that, people were moving and plans were changing and things were, transpiring over the course of the night, but I'm not cool with being left behind like that. I'm not cool with being left alone. I don't like that. I think it makes me uncomfortable. It's dangerous. It's not safe. And that's, I think, the conversation that I would have before cutting it off. And then if it happens again, or if this is something that's been a continuous thing, then I would just cut it off right then and there, because to me, there's no benefit in that friendship, especially because it's clear that your well-being is not a priority. And not that everyone needs to look out for themselves as well. You're not being there to be babysat, but at the same time, it's just standard protocol. You leave with each other. So I would have a conversation. I wouldn't cut it off yet, but I would have a conversation and I would just be kind of proceeding with caution, honestly, whenever I would go out with them again, if you decide to go out with them again. So that is what I have to say about that. Okay, moving on. What would Sav do with a guy who takes way too long to respond? Okay. This reminds me of a situation that I was in, a situationship, I should say, that I was in a couple of years ago. And I've dated, people that have, taken long times to respond. But I remember this guy that I was seeing at the time, he particularly took the longest time to respond. I'm talking hours, anywhere between like 2 to 10 hours he would respond. And then he would respond back with like 6 to 10 text messages. This guy did not care about the double texting. It was like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 text messages. And this is what I've learned. I've learned that guys are not as calculated, and I mean, they're calculated in certain things, but I don't think that they're calculated in this, especially like the guy friends that I've talked to about situations like this and stuff. Guys don't overthink things the way that we do. If they want to text, if they want to call, if they want to FaceTime, they're going to do it. And I think that in a scenario like this, actions speak louder than words. If a guy is taking a long time to text you back, in my opinion, that means that like you're not a priority to him. And I know that that's painful to hear, but I do think that that is what that shows, because I just think that if he wanted to text you, he would. And I remember in my situation, I would make up all of these excuses and whatever. But I mean, like, the man was posting on Instagram, stories, posts, he was all over social media, but I wouldn't receive a text back. Granted, he would send like 6 to 10, so he probably needed some time to focus. But at the same time, it wasn't working for me. The communication style wasn't working for me. And some people are like that. Some people don't need to communicate 24/7, or it's not even 24/7. Like, don't need to have like normal basic communication via text messages or whatever. And that's fine. But maybe that just also means that you guys aren't a match. Like, your communication styles aren't lining up. You need someone who can communicate more, and he's not able to provide that to you. So because of that, maybe that in and of itself should give you the clarity of, this might not be it. It doesn't have to have any malice or ill will or bad intention to it. Sometimes people just don't line up in that way, and that's okay. And I think that might be, what's going on here. He might be great. You're obviously great. I don't even have to say might, but I think that, sometimes even if this is just how he communicates and it has nothing to do with you, because obviously it doesn't, this is just, his communication style. And if he's not willing to meet you in the way that you need to be met, like your needs need to be met in a certain way when it comes to communication, it's just not for you. And so I would move on probably, and I would find someone who is willing to meet you where you need to be as far as communication goes. And if he's, kind of confused and he's like, why aren't you texting me back, or what happened, or whatever, I would just, I would say, I didn't think you were that interested because, there was never a lot of communication on your end, and it was never very clear. It took a long time to respond, which is fine, but there was never a lot of effort put into it. So I just wasn't really, made clear of where you stood. And so I have been, just doing my thing. That's what I would say. And I think that that's very valid. I think it's a very valid point to be making. So that's what I would do. And I wouldn't waste your time, I think, worrying about someone who's not texting back quick enough. Everyone has lives and everyone has things that's going on, but at the same time, if someone can't respond to a text, like, come on. We all can. So that's how I would go about it. Moving on. Oh, we have an update, you guys. We have an update. If you guys remember from the last, I don't know if it was the last What Was Have or maybe 2 What Was Have ago. If you remember, there was a question from a girl who, I'm just kind of giving the recap. There was a question from someone who had these roommates. The roommates start dating and she feels uncomfortable about it. She didn't know what to do about it. And like, that was essentially what it was. Like, what should I do? They started like hooking up or dating or whatever. And they were like PDAing everywhere and it's gross and I don't want to see it. What do I do? We have an update. Here we go. Roommate update. We're all friends. And the roommates that were hooking up are boyfriend and girlfriend. I drunkenly told the girl who I'm closest with that it makes me really uncomfy to live with. They've gotten a bit better, but they will still cuddle in the living room, which is something I don't really want to see. So I usually stay in my room, but I feel like they won't change it. I'm also moving out in a few months because I'm graduating college. So should I put up with it for the last few months? It's also a weird feeling being the only single one in the house now because of our other roommate that has a girlfriend. Okay. What I would say is, like, honestly, if they are not like making out all over each other and like hanging on one another and like hooking up right in front of your face, if they're just like cuddling on the couch, it might make you uncomfortable. But at the same time, I do think that there is something to be said about like it's a shared living space and they are also living there. And so I would ask you to ask yourself, like, what about it makes you uncomfortable? Like, is it the fact that like they're, doing their thing together, your other roommate has a girlfriend and it's just like a weird vibe? Like, what about it truly makes you uncomfortable? If I were you, I wouldn't say anything else because like you've already said your piece, you've said what you've needed to say. And if they've like taken it down a little bit and like been a little bit more respectful, I think that that's great. I don't think that you can fully expect them to like not like do anything at all, like not cuddle on the couch or like not, hold hands or like show a little bit of affection to each other because like, it is their space also. They both live there. And if they're being mindful of it, I think that's all we can really hope for. I don't think that it's honestly fair to say like, I don't want you guys to like, I don't want to see anything ever. Because again, like they live there as well. And so I do think that there is a line when it comes to the PDA, like, again, like making out or like being really touchy-feely, weird, gross things. Obviously, that's like a line that shouldn't be crossed. But I do think like the innocent cuddling on the couch or whatever it is, that to me wouldn't bother me as much. And I honestly wouldn't say anything else because you do only have a couple more months living there. And if you want to maintain the friendship that you have with especially the one girl that you're closest to, I probably just wouldn't say anything else because you're only going to create more tension. And since you only have a few months left of being there, I don't think it's worth it. So I can see where you're coming from in terms of like not wanting to see it constantly. But I do think that there also is something to be said about, it is their space too. And as long as they're not being like over the top and like super in your face about it, then that is something that, I think that there's got to be like a compromise, like a middle ground, and this just might be that middle ground. So that's what I would say. I would say I wouldn't bring up anything else about it. I would just kind of let them do them. And if it does get over the top again, like if they do start getting a little bit more comfortable again, maybe, bring it up with the friend again. But as far as, just the where it's at now and what you said about based off of, where they're at and the things that they do, I would leave it alone personally. And I know it bugs you, and I know that it, makes you feel a type of way, but I would just try and distract yourself. I would go hang out with some other friends. I would invite your friends over to your apartment. You should be allowed to feel comfortable in your space too. And, everyone who is living in that situation deserves to have that comfort. So whatever it is that you have to do to make yourself still feel comfortable for those next few months, I would do that. Okay, next one. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. How do you deal with periods of loneliness and drifting apart from friends? Okay, I have a motto when it comes to friends, and I kind of live by this because I've gone through a lot of different friends in my lifetime, and I think that friends come into your life, and I think people in general, but friends specifically come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lesson. And I think the same way with relationships too. Friends in particular, I have many friends that have, we've grown apart. We've grown apart in our lives, and we just aren't the same, and you drift apart. And these are people that you never thought that you could live without, and you couldn't imagine life without them. And now, you're in a period of your life where they're not there, and it is weird, and it is like something you never would have expected before. I think that when it comes to the drifting apart of friendships, that's really, really hard because you're kind of trying to like grasp at anything you can, and you're like, wait, but like you were my friend through this and through that, and all the things, and I never thought that we would get to this point where we're not friends. And that is a really hard realization to come to, but I do think that it's something to be said about being grateful for the friendship that you had. As you go through life, you are going to make so many more friends. You're going to meet so many more people, and they will come into your life for seasons or reasons or lessons or blessings or whatever. Like, you're going to have many friends that come into your life, and you're going to have many friends that fall out of your life. I can't tell you the amount of times that I have had friends, come and go, and people that I'm not as close with, people move away, they get new jobs, they get new friends, they get boyfriends, things like that cause almost like a drift in relationships and friendships. But I think that how to deal with that is, reminding yourself of all the good times, reminding yourself of, all of the memories and all of the things that you guys shared, and being able to look back on that with like a positive light, I think is really important. I have so many friends who I'm not super close with anymore, but I know that if I texted them, if I called them, like we would pick right up where we left off. Like, that's really important to me. I have so many friends like that. And then I have friends who are like my core people, like my people, my group, my tribe, like all of that. And to me, that's also very important. I would say when I've felt this feeling of like, I'd feel like I don't have a lot of friends, or I feel like in a weird transition period with my friends, that is always when, like, in my opinion, new people are getting ready to come into your life. Like, it's almost like a feeling that I get of like, I'm kind of not feeling like I have like friendship. My friendship aspect of my life is feeling a little empty. That is always kind of when I feel like the new people and the new wave is getting ready to move its way in. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I visualize it in like the times that I've felt like this. And I'm always right, because new friends do come into my life, and it's through different ways. My best friend right now, and she will be for a while, I love her to death, and I want to bring her on the podcast. She was my hair girl, and that's how we met and we clicked. Bumble BFF, a great way to get on there and just like make friends. If you feel like, that's something that you're missing, putting yourself out there like that is something that I always recommend. I will always recommend Bumble BFF. I have met many people from that app, and all of them have been so great. And I've still remained close with many of them to this day. So I would just also take some of that energy and pour it back into yourself. Instead of mourning and longing and feeling empty, I would be a friend to yourself. And I know that's cliche, and it's like, Savannah, like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I want friends. I get it. But like being a friend to yourself is also really important, especially in the times where you do feel that loneliness, you do feel that uncomfortability, you do feel like, wait a second, where are my people? Show up for yourself in those moments too. Be your own friend first. And that I think is really important, and something that I've learned too is like, I can't be a good friend to everyone else unless I'm the best friend to myself. Like, take yourself out on little like dates, like go to a coffee shop or go get sushi or like go do something fun with yourself. Like, that is always like a really, I think, important thing that often gets overlooked because it's like weird. It's like, why would I do that? It's like almost like uncomfortable, but pushing yourself out of those boundaries and like taking yourself on those friendship dates and like doing things that you love, pouring that energy back into yourself, just as we do with like relationships and things like that. So that's how I feel when it comes to all of that. My family is upset with me for moving on too quickly from a toxic relationship. What would Sav do? I would tell your family to kick rocks. That's what I would do, because honestly, getting out of a toxic relationship is hard enough in and of itself. It took me so long to muster up the strength to get out of my toxic relationship. It took me so long. And I remember, and this is no like shade to my family. My family is my world. They're my rock. They're my people. I love them to death always. This is nothing, to them. It was honestly me. Like, I never shared with them how toxic the relationship was. I never shared with them the things that were going on in the relationship. And so when we broke up and those things did kind of start coming out, I remember my family like kind of side-eyeing me a little bit, being like, well, why didn't you say anything? And why didn't you tell us? And like, putting their judgment in. And I know it's different because your family's getting mad about like you moving on too fast. My family was kind of like side-eyeing in the way of like, well, like, why wouldn't you say anything? It's like, okay, well, why would I? Like, why would I? And families never fully understand the depth of like how toxic the relationship really was. Like, they can hear it and they can like get it from a certain angle, but like, you were in the relationship and you survived the relationship and you got out of the relationship. And that in and of itself is something to be celebrated. And if you want to celebrate it by moving on with someone else, so freaking be it, go do it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. And I don't think that that should be ridiculed or criticized or looked at weird at all. I don't care if it's the next freaking day. I don't care if it's the same day. It does not matter. The strength it takes to leave a toxic relationship is something that does not get talked about enough. And once you finally leave and once you finally like wipe your hands clean of it and are done, you get to choose how you move on. You get to choose how you want to repair yourself. You get to choose how you want to heal. No one else can tell you otherwise. And so if your family has something to say about it, like if your family wants to give you any grief for it, kick rocks. Kick rocks. Let them judge. They weren't there. They don't know. And so if they want to like do that, if that's like their prerogative and that's the way that they want to, lead with this, I just would... if you're looking for what to say to them, or if you wanted to say something to them, I would probably say like, listen, you're not in my shoes. You do not know what I went through. You do not know the strength that it took to leave. I am doing what's best for me right now. You don't have, like, I'm working on myself. I am in a great spot and I'm, this is what is best for me. And I'm good. I'm good. Like, leave me alone. I know it's easier said than done. And, everyone's always going to have something to say. Always. But I think it's really important to just stand your ground on this. Don't let the side comments get to you, because again, the strength it takes to leave something like that, you get to do whatever you want. You get to do whatever you want. Can you tell that one's a little bit personal? Okay, moving on. Should I be sleeping with my friends with benefits, even though I'm kind of talking to another guy, but it's only been 2 weeks and we're not exclusive and I'm not sure if I'm attracted to him? And am I a bad person? No. I don't think you're a bad person at all. If you want to sleep with your friends with benefits because you've only been talking to a guy for 2 weeks and you're still kind of feeling him out, what's wrong with that? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. You do you. I say you go for it. I don't think it makes you a bad person at all. It's still such in like the early beginning stages. Like you can't know enough about someone after only 2 weeks to know whether this is something that you want to like continue or pursue or do anything like that. If you want to keep seeing your friends with benefits, you do that. Up until there's like that exclusivity talk, up until there's like a clear point of communication of like, this is where we stand, it's fair game, in my opinion. In my opinion. What would Sav do if he never makes plans to hang out and texts super short but says he really likes you? Actions speak louder than words. This is a painful one that we're having to grasp at this episode. I do think that, we love to hold on to hope as people, as, when we're talking to someone, we love to hold on to hope when we find someone we like and we want to make it work. We want to hold on to hope. We want to hold on to potential. We want to hold on to the image that we're creating in our mind of like how great this can be. But we have to look at the facts. If he's texting you super short, if he never really, he never asks to make plans to hang out, but he's like just kind of feeding you the I like you every, couple days or every day or whatever, just to kind of keep it as a filler to like keep you around. That's not enough. That is not enough. The bar is in hell lately. That is not enough. We need more, and you deserve more, and you should require more from other people. If someone isn't asking to hang out with you and like their responses are short, but they're like, oh, I like you. How can they like you? Because you haven't had like a full, back and forth conversation really over like text or whatever. Like you haven't been able to have like a full blown like conversation. There's no effort to see you. There's no effort to make plans. What is he doing that is showing you he likes you rather than just saying it? I can say I like anyone. I don't. Like I can literally say like anyone could. I could be like, oh, I like that. I don't like them. I don't like them at all. But I can say that. But like, what is it that the actions are showing to prove that? And when we look at the facts are showing that the facts and the words, or the actions and the words, are not matching up. And that's what we need. And we need to require higher standards. That is what I'm learning today. We need to require higher standards from the people that we're dealing with and talking to and like potentially having relationships with and relations with. We need to require more, because this half-ass bar in hell bullshit it's not working anymore. It's not working. And we all need to set our standards higher, because that is what we're worth and that is what we deserve. So that's what I think. That's what Sav would do. Okay, moving on. What would Sav do if your best friend tried getting in the middle of your marriage and is calling you a liar to your own husband? What would you do? We are no longer friends, but she's reaching out to others in the friend group talking about me. First of all, we're too grown for this. What do you mean? What, trying to get in the middle of your marriage? Yeah, no, I would cut her off. And it sounds like you did, which I applaud you for. If she is trying to weasel her way back in or trying to spread lies about you, what I would just say to your friends is like, listen, you guys know who I am. You know my morals, whatever it is, whatever the lie is, or however she tried to get in the middle of it. I would say to your friends, I would hope that you guys know me well enough to know that I wouldn't lie about something like this. Like, my marriage is something I take seriously. And if she wants to run her mouth, like, let her run her mouth, because people are bored. Like, if that's what she wants to spend time in her life doing, I genuinely feel sorry for her, and I genuinely feel bad for her, because there is such a deep-rooted insecurity, and there is such a deep-rooted jealousy and emptiness that she is feeling. And I would just say to your friends, like, listen, I don't want to be associated with anyone who's associated with her. She tried to get in the middle of my marriage, which is something I'm obviously not okay with. And if she wants to disrespect me like that, I don't want to be around anyone who is going to associate with her, because I just cannot be around her for my own, mental sanity and for my relationships, marriage sake. It's just not worth it. So I am going to be distancing myself from her, and that includes other people. Obviously, it's hard because like you can't tell people who to be friends with, but I would just tell your friends, like, I hope you guys would know me well enough to respect what I'm saying and to believe me with what I'm saying. And as far as like her running her mouth again, like let her, she will tire out eventually. Like this is what these types of people do. They just run, and then they get tired because they want a reaction. That's what they want. They want a reaction. They want, some sort of retaliation so that they can play the victim. That is what's happening. I would say continue doing what you're doing, leave her cut off, and do not allow her back into your life. Period. Point blank. Bye. Done. That's it. Bye. Okay, moving on. My friends constantly ignore my message in a group chat and I feel left out, like I don't belong. It sounds like you don't have very good friends. I would honestly probably go to whoever you're closest to out of this friend group, out of this group chat, and I would just express that. I would be like, listen, I feel like this group chat or like, in this friend group, I kind of feel like the odd one out. Like whenever we're in the group chat, like no one really responds to me or no one responds back to my messages. And it just kind of makes me feel weird. Like it makes me feel like I'm not really supposed to be there. It makes me feel like you guys don't want me there. And it just is a little bit uncomfortable. So like I'm trying to navigate that because it's not a great feeling for me. Like I love you guys as friends. And I've thought that like we've created a really strong friendship, but it's just not feeling very reciprocated at the moment. And I'm trying to understand why. That's what I would say to that person, like the person you're closest to, and hopefully they can relay the message to everyone else. And again, actions speaking louder than words. We see what actions are taken after that. And if, there's effort being put into responding or, they're being more proactive with you, I think that that's great because sometimes people do need a reminder, but only one reminder. That's all people need. And if it's not that, then I would get on Bumble BFF again. That's what I would do. But in all seriousness, I know that that's a really shitty feeling. I've been there a million times. I remember when I was in 8th grade, I used to have this friend group and it was like the popular people and I was the odd one out. Like I sat at lunch, I did not speak to any of them. I just sat there and I listened to everyone because I felt like if I said anything, it was going to get ignored or no one was really going to listen to me. And because of that, I think that's part of the reason I became a really good listener is just because I spent a lot of time listening to people, especially like in middle school, high school. And, I would invite everyone over to my house to get ready for things because I was always afraid that if I didn't, then I wasn't going to get invited. And that was kind of the mindset that I had. And so I understand what that feeling is like. I wish I would have had one person to talk to and express my feelings like that back then. So that is what I would do in your scenario and in your case. My fiance wants me to leave my good paying job and my hometown to move to Texas where he moved last year to be closer to his family. And now he wants us to buy a home there and start a life, but I'm a little scared to start over. What would Sav do? I would say I would have a very open and honest conversation with your fiance. And I would be like, listen, I love you. I want to be together. I want to have a life with you. But the idea of moving somewhere, away from my hometown, away from a job that I'm like doing really well in, that is a very scary thing. It's a lot of unknowns. And yes, I do want to build a life with you and I do want to have all these things with you, but it just feels like a very big change. And I would ask yourself, like, is this something that you want? Are you scared about it because you're scared of like the unknown and like the change is scary, but like it's an exciting scary? Or is it like, I do not want to do this? Like I'm scared because this does not sound like a good time to me at all. I don't want to be in Texas. Like, no, thank you. And if that's the case, then that's like a different conversation. But if it's just like more so scared of the change, I would just open that conversation up to your fiance and have a very honest talk about it. That way you guys are on the same page about how you're feeling. There's no surprises. And he can kind of give you that reassurance that maybe you need. And to be like, listen, hopefully he would respond in a way that's like, I understand how you're feeling. I get it's a scary change, but it's so exciting. And this is what we're going to do. And this is what our house, like, let's start looking about like what we want our house to look like things like that kind of shift the narrative of the conversation from being, daunting and scary to exciting and, a new chapter. So I would ask yourself where you lie on it, if it's like an absolute no because you don't want to, or if it's just like scared because of change. Change is always scary. And that was another one that was asked in here. Change is always scary. And the best way to face change is really just to face it head on and understanding, that there is a lot of unknown that comes with change. There's a lot of unknown that comes with, any sort of change, whether that's relationship, friendship, moving, job, family. Change is scary, but being able to navigate the change by just kind of facing it head on and being able to be like, listen, whatever's coming my way, I'm going to be able to navigate it. I can do it. Like I have the strength to do that, especially if you have like a partner or your fiance, for example, like you're going to have another person. So it's not just going to be you facing this alone. So again, ask yourself where you lie on the whole Texas thing and then open up that conversation. And just have it be very open and honest and transparent. And I think that it's very, very normal to feel this way, especially because you do have such deep rooted roots wherever it is that you are. So that's what I would say. Okay, last one. I want to start my own business, but I'm so scared to put a bunch of money into it and for it to fail. You will never know if you never try. And I understand that it's scary and it's a big investment. But if you truly wholeheartedly believe in it, I think you should go for it. I saw this quote the other day and it said that failure is success in and of itself. And I think that that is a really good way to look at things like this, that, we're so scared of failure. We're so scared. What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, we get redirected. If it doesn't work, we learn. If it doesn't work, we know that this wasn't it and we're on to the next. It's a redirection of our life. And I think that you will never regret trying, but you never want to be able to go through life being like, oh, what if I did this? What if I just committed to starting my own business? What if I committed to putting my all into it? What if I did start this? Who knows? Maybe it takes off. I think that if we spend our life in fear of rejection and fear of failure, we are missing out on so many opportunities and holding ourselves back from everything that we could ever dream of and everything that could potentially come to light for us. And I think that it's important to, give yourself the opportunity to succeed. In doing that, you're also giving yourself the opportunity to learn and to grow and to maybe be redirected into a different facet of your life or in a different chapter of your life that you couldn't have seen coming. Things branch off from things like, what's it called? Like opportunities branch off from things like this, if this isn't it, if this isn't what, your calling is, or if you don't love it, or you're not feeling it, or it's not going the way that you wanted to, maybe you learned that this wasn't it, but something else is. I think that you should just go for it because again, you never want to be able to be like, oh, like what if I did that? Or in 5 years being like, I wish I would have just bit the bullet then and did it. Just do it. In my opinion, I say just do it. But that, you guys, is going to be the end of this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly and What Would Sav Do? Again, if you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah, and I'm your host of My Thoughts Exactly. Make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday, and you're not going to want to miss it. I will be back next week with a brand new one for you guys, and I will see you there. Bye, guys.